Welcome to episode 41 of the URI podcast. Today I am joined by Marcus Wilson, who is a former coach of Zek Montgomery, an incoming recruit transfer from Bradley, 25-17. First of all, Marcus, thanks for coming in today. How are you?
No problem. I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Well, we definitely want to learn more about Zek Montgomery, not Zek Montgomery, as some people have asked me, but before we do that, I'd like to talk about your storied career. I did a lot of research on you, and I didn't realize how prominent a player you are. Maybe we could go through starting with your college career, fourth all-time scorer in school history, over 2,000 points. I've watched your game, and you're just a lights-out shooter. Why don't we go start with Zek now? You didn't have Twitter then to do these cool things like that. Would you have liked to do that?
I would have loved it. And you know, it's so funny. I was talking about this the other day. Like, I think even like 10 years ago, when kids would have thought to do something like that, the majority of the public and adults would have said, oh, he's selfish, he's self-centered, he's trying to get all the attention for himself, and it should be about the team. But, you know, nowadays with NIL and branding and knowing the connection between your number of followers and then the number of dollars you can get, everybody understands that it's part of the process now. It's part of the game. So that was a really nice let the Ram Nation know that Zek was joining you guys next year.
And he looks like he means business, and he also looks like he's really happy to be here. And those are two formulas for success, early acceptance from a tough Rhody fan base. Go on their board. They're fair, but they're tough, and they already have questions on Zek, so they analyze every single thing he's done, including what he had for breakfast this morning. And I think that's a good thing for him. Is overall they're great people. They get to know the families of the players and the relationships. So let's go right to it. Tell me about how you met Zek early on. It's a wonderful story.
Yeah, well, he was playing in Louisville at the time. I believe at a high school called Fern Creek, and I was helping at a high school in St. Louis called St. Louis Christian. And Coach Casey Alkenrich, who was the coach there, was bringing Zek over, trying to recruit him to come over. And I met him. I met his uncle. They came over and visited. And he didn't choose St. Louis Christian at the time. He chose a school out in California, but he went out there, I guess quickly realized he didn't like it. It wasn't as good of a fit, or they weren't really offering what they were selling him in the recruitment process. And then he came back to St. Louis, and, you know, I wasn't an official coach on that staff or anything. I was just really more of a helper. You know, I had coached, like I said, at St. Louis University. So Casey would have me come around and sometimes just help, you know, give some pointers on the offense, recommend some drills, but probably even more so just help be around some of the players, serve as kind of like a mentor or like a resource for a lot of the kids that might have questions on what it takes to get to college, or at the time just, you know, being in the business world and things like that. And so, yeah, and then Zek came in, and, you know, I think he was a kind of relatively quiet kid. So it wasn't like we were best friends or anything, but like, you know, I was just around, I would give him advice, and I was around the team often. And fast forward to when it was decision-making time, you know, he got stuck in that zone where a lot of kids do, where high majors are looking at him and saying, oh, we like him, but no one quite pulls the trigger. I think Virginia Tech had been flirting with offering him. And so there were a couple schools like that, but never did. And mid-majors sometimes are like, we're not going to try, because they think that the high majors are going to go after them. So then this happens more than you would realize. Kids just kind of fall in that little gap, and they don't have any offers, and for whatever reason. And so, you know, I had called a couple of the MVC schools that I had relationships with and recommended him. A couple of them said no for whatever reason. And then I called Drew Adams. I want to say Drew might have been my third call, but I called him and was just like, hey, you know, Drew, there's this kid here that is really good. And I think he'd be a really good player in the Missouri Valley Conference. He's 6'6", I think, in the Missouri Valley. And in most conferences, if you can have a wing that is 6'6", 6'7", that can dribble, pass, shoot, he becomes a major matchup problem because guards are often too small to stop him, and bigs aren't agile enough to keep him in front. And so I was like, I just thought that he had that ability to do that. And I called Drew, and ironically, Zeke had just made the decision to go play for Indiana Elite. So Drew's dad runs Indiana Elite. So Drew came, checked him out, loved what he saw. And a lot of times the school would need to do a lot more research on the kid. But luckily for me, I had a past relationship with him and his dad. And so they kind of trusted my opinion, and he offered him. And that was his only offer at the time, and he accepted it. And he went there as a freshman. And of course, like a freshman, most freshmen do, it was a little transitional period. But towards the end of the year, started playing a lot better. And then this past year, really kind of came into his own. But he was playing on a team with some other really good players. So, he had to share the ball with some other really good guys. But I do think that he has another level that he can possibly get to if he continues to work hard and obviously fits within the system of what the coach wants. So I think, he can continue to develop and grow and be even a better player than what he's already shown in the Valley.
So when Casey brought you in, you were like his ringer to bring you in and get Zeke to come over to St. Louis Prep, which doesn't exist anymore, I understand. And it's kind of funny how he brought you in there and you closed the deal on it.
No, I mean, we did it jointly, right? I think I'm being honest, like, Casey's a white guy, and obviously I'm a black guy. And so his whole staff is white. And oftentimes, like, when he had a team of majority black kids, and, he would want me to be around, just for them to be a resource in case, because some kids just, that's sure. And so with Zeke coming in, he just wanted to show Zeke and his uncle that he would have, a positive black male around, and needed a resource. And so, I wasn't really the guy who sealed the deal. Casey discovered him, and it was his school. He actually had to coach him. But I do think that, together we kind of presented the case that Zeke could come there and play.
And going to now, what's your relationship with Zeke? Are you still close, or just casual phone call here and there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 45 years old, so I don't spend a lot of time on the phone with 20-year-olds. But I mean, I do, just in recruitment and stuff. Just when he was leaving Bradley, I reached out and just told him I would be a resource and help him connect to schools or be a reference. And so we talked a little bit about what schools would be interested, and I called a couple schools for him as well who were interested, and ultimately he felt that Rhode Island gave him the best chance to do what he wanted to do, which is to continue to develop his game and hopefully become a pro. And I think Archie Miller and his staff were able to convey that message to him, that they saw the same thing in him as he was seeing in himself. Because a lot of times players, they want to be pros, or they want to be something, and then the coaching staff doesn't exactly see the same in the player. And that's where conflict usually happens. And that's one of the reasons the transfer portal has exploded. But I think that this, for Zeke and Rhode Island, Archie saw something in him that he thought that he could be a very good player for them in their program. And Zeke wanted to have more of a leading role. And so it was, I think, it was a good match at the time, and we'll see how it plays out this year.
Very excited about him, and for a lot of reasons. And I guess Kenny Johnson was the lead recruit, and he has Louisville ties. So when Kenny Johnson gets these recruits, he finds gems from that other people don't notice, and he's picked up some really good. Obviously, before Rhode Island, the names that he has from Indiana to Louisville are just astounding. And he's doing that here. We're very excited to have him come in. We know his game. How's his defense? We're going to go to highlights soon, but as a defensive player, what would you say?
I mean, he's been coached very well. So Bradley is year in, year out, one of the top defensive teams in the country, and especially in the Missouri Valley Conference. And so Coach Wardle does a really good job of having a defensive-minded team. So he's going to know where he's supposed to be on the court, the effort that it takes to be a good defender. He has the size and length and quickness and athletic ability to do it. So I think that he can be a really good two-way player.
We see his 3-point shootings at 42%. Some people are looking, well, did he take enough shots? Is he really 42% without a lot of attempts?
Yeah, I mean, there are people that don't shoot a lot of attempts and have a 19% field goal.
I like that.
But like, I mean, like,
yeah,
still, you are what you are, and the percentage is what it is. I think earlier in the year, I remember when we played him, he was shooting 50 at the time.
Wow.
And yeah, his volume wasn't as high, but like I said, they had a very balanced team. If I'm not mistaken, they had like 5 guys averaging between 8 and 12 or 13 points a game, and he was one of those 5 guys. So no one was really just gunning and shooting 20 shots. It wasn't the offensive system that they were in. But I do think that he'll shoot more here. They're at Rhode Island. And, I always say it's going to be up to the player if his percentage stays the same or goes up, depending on the work that they put in the whole season. You don't just show up and start shooting well. A lot of that is going to be determined on how many shots you shot in the off season at game speed. And so then it's actually transferable to the court. So, I know that when you say Coach Johnson, Coach Miller are looking forward to having him there and working with him in the off season. So he's going to have to continue to shoot. If he can shoot 40% from 3, shooting 2 or 3 more threes a game, he's going to be a really good player for you guys.
And we would enjoy that very much so. And 3-point shooting has been an Achilles heel for us for a number of years now. But foul shooting wasn't last year. That was one bright spot. And being an 88% career foul shooter, and I've watched you shoot against Kansas, and it just looked like you were going through the paces. I knew the ball was going in even before you shot it. He's at 64. Do you feel like there's room for improvement and just fundamentally to get him into that 70 range, which is, I think, a good number for a player, especially a starter or 6-man off the bench?
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think that there's no secret to being a good shooter. It takes time, right? So if it's something that he puts his mind to this summer and puts in the extra time and shots and reps, then it'll go up. I don't know what Rhode Island's off-season workout plans are, but I assume that I know, like in every college, we all get 8 hours, right? And most separated with 4 to 5 hours in the weight room and conditioning. So 8 hours a week, staffs a lot of the team. And so, you get usually coaches split up 4 to 5, maybe 4 days lifting, 1 day of 1 hour conditioning or something like that. Then you'll have 3 hours of on the court workouts. And for most college players, they do the 3 hours, and a lot of them go home after that, and then they rest and they play video games, spend time with their girlfriend, whatever, watch movies, whatever they do. But 3 hours a week is not going to be enough to be a very good player at a level conference like the A-10 or in any conference in Division I basketball. So, he's going to need to go as hard as he can in those 3 hours and then come back and probably put in an extra hour or 2 each day, not an extra hour total per week. And if he does that, which I believe he can, then, I think you'll see multiple areas of improvement in this game, not just free throw shooting, but ball handling, defense, all those things. So it's just a matter of putting in the time and actually getting in the gym and doing it. That's all free throw shooting and shooting is.
And well, if you want to know a little bit about the coaching staff, Archie Miller has practices at 3 o'clock. So if you come after 2 o'clock, you're late. So he works them hard, and defenses, he has kind of a difficult scheme that takes a little while to learn. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'll make some adjustments to lower the learning curve. But let's go and look at some video highlights. Here we go. So I'm going to leave it up to you here. Tell me what I'm seeing.
Okay, so, I think one of the things that I said, I thought he could do well is be a two-way player. So, being able to score off your defense. He wants to play in the NBA, like most players do.
Yeah.
So is Zeke a LeBron James in the NBA? No, I don't think 99.9% of people are. There's only going to be a small percentage of all-stars. But when you're not an all-star, the way to make an NBA team is to be a two-way player. So as you're seeing right here, he's scoring off his defense, and he's scoring, on a lot spot-up threes. You're not going to get an opportunity to dribble 10, 12 times. And so I think that's what he does well is at 6'6", you can put him on the 2, 3, or 4 of the other team, sometimes the 1 if he's not extremely quick. And so to have a guy who can guard 4 positions and then come down to the other end and make spot-up threes while you have other guys on the team who can penetrate and dish and do some other things, that's where guys like that become so valuable. You hear about the term 3-and-D. If you can make threes and you can defend and you have height and athleticism, you become a very integral part of a championship team. And so I think that's what Zeke was for Bradley. And I think for Rhode Island, what he's wanting and coaches are probably wanting and fans are wanting is for him to be a 3-and-D guy, as well as a little bit more like to be able to take the ball in his hands and create a little bit more. That wasn't his role as much at Bradley. Yeah. He's hoping to expand that, and he's going to work on that this offseason. And if that's what the coaches have planned for him in the offense, which from what I understand in recruitment it is, for him to take a big jump. But even just being a 3-and-D guy is very valuable, and that's what he has been the last 2 years.
Well, when things were going well for Rhode Island last year, they were usually running, and he looks like a player that fits in that system better than any. And it's possible that he elevates very quickly just in a different system, because I'm watching, I know they're highlights, but they're highlights of a Division I school that won 25 games in a difficult conference. And he just, and looks effortless for one. And another observation is that he's a matchup nightmare. Those are two things. Besides being highly athletic, we need someone to keep the defense honest, to hit the threes that he's hitting. And just watching the highlights, he looks very confident out there.
I think a knock on him in the past has been it doesn't look like he's playing hard, but he moves pretty effortlessly, especially for his height. And oftentimes he doesn't show a lot of emotion. So it looks like he's not going as hard. But then next thing you know, he's by his defender or he's stealing the ball. Those kind of guys are kind of hard to read. I think an underrated part of his game that fans are going to realize that I saw a lot in high school, and what I told Drew was he's a very, very good passer. I think in high school he played with another kid, Jordan Nesbitt, who played at SLU and is now in Hampton and just put his name in the football. Jordan was shooting the ball a lot more, and Zeke was scoring. I think he was the second leading scorer on the team, but he was a really good facilitator. He knows where the defense is rotating, and he, being 6'6", he has that extra passing lane. So not just chest passes, bounce passes, but he can go over the top with his height, with that. And so I think that Rhode Island fans will be pleasantly surprised with his pass.
That's another thing I can't keep up. We fall in love with his 3-point shot, and then we see him play defense well. And he has good handles as well. So filling that 2 spot, sometimes it's hard for some of our wings that are 6'6", 6'7" to adjust to the 2 spot with the defense that you're playing against the VCUs that still have that havoc defense to some extent. But his handles are pretty good too, you would say?
Yeah. I think he's what you would probably consider a point forward. He's not this guy yet. I'm just saying, but like how a Scottie Pippen played, right?
Yeah.
A small forward who could bring the ball up the court and initiate the offense. And so that I think that's what he's trying to develop to continue to be.
I have a PowerPoint here as well. Here's one up. First team most improved in the Missouri Valley Conference.
He took a big jump from his freshman to sophomore year, and then really just in minutes as well. I think he was coming off the bench as a freshman. He started a few games as a freshman, but his sophomore year, he was starting the whole season and got a lot of minutes, and took advantage of that, which led to that most improved honor. When
you have a guy that comes on strong at the end of the year, some of our best players, we've looked at their growth, and maybe they didn't start out well, but they finished strong, and then by that second year, they went on their way to a path. I'm thinking of a guy, Will Daniels, who was on in a few years ago, who really came on strong at the end of the year. And then he started 25 of 29 games this last year, I have here as a stat. So he is a starter on a conference-winning team, had an injury. Some of the comments here, yeah, this dude screams high ceiling. Like I said, he's a big mismatch. He played well against good competition, played a very good team with a lot of mouths to feed. I like the way he puts that. But it was a different type of team that was very deliberate compared to what Rhode Island, I think, has planned to do. So that's like you said, another advantage for him coming into. Maybe it was a reason why he chose Rhode Island in the first place.
Yeah, I think that I think everybody who was seeing the Missouri Valley Conference, it's a really tough league to score in. You know, there's a lot of packed defenses, and try to keep people out of the paint. People tend to send more back on defense than crashing the boards, which that turns into a slower paced game. Whereas some conferences, it's all about crashing the boards, which when you got more people going towards the boards, when you get the rebound, there's more space to run, right? And I think the A-10 is a more up and down league in the Missouri Valley Conference. And I'm pretty sure that's one of the reasons why Zeke wanted to go there, because he wanted to be in a league that was a little bit more transitional in terms of getting the ball out and be able to use his skill set in transition and get up and down a little bit more. I think that he thought he would be more productive in a system and in a conference like that.
I have a surprise for you now. Does that look familiar?
Yeah. I'm about to show some clips of the young me versus Roy Williams and the Jayhawks.
Yeah, well, let's go to it.
Taking his team to the big dance. And the Aces go with Snow, Seitz, all freshmen in the Missouri Valley Conference. And there's Marcus Wilson's second all-time score at Evansville.
Actually should have had that, Jim.
Kansas defense has really come on here. That's a big reason why they won the Big 12 tournament. Wilson, their leading scorer, hits the three.
Yeah, Robertson made a
I just wanted to stop here. What were you feeling? You looked like you didn't have any nerves in you at all. You were very confident. You made your first shot. You couldn't wait to shoot it. How did you feel? You're playing against Kansas in the first round in the NCAA. And we'll have some more coverage of that. But what was your feelings starting the game like that?
Yeah, I mean, like I just said about Zeke, preparation is everything. And for me, preparation breeds confidence, right? And so I was really confident going into the game. There's a difference between confidence and arrogance. I tell my players all the time, arrogance is when you show up thinking you're about to be great and you haven't put any work in. You just think just showing up is going to be enough. Now, confidence is, like you study for the test. You study for the test for 2 weeks, and then the teacher gives out the test and you feel you're going to do well because you prepared for it, right? And so I felt like I had prepared for it. I worked my butt off in the off season. I had a good year. And then leading into this game, I studied the film. I was in the gym. I thought I knew where I could get some of my looks. I studied their defense. I knew who was going to guard me. And I felt I knew where I could get them to go under some screens and attack some of their weaknesses. So I was really prepared coming in. And then once the first shot or two goes in, for a shooter, the only thing you can really do is stop them, is to not let them shoot. And they didn't do that. So I went ahead and had a pretty good game.
You know what Billy Packer said about they should have put someone else more athletic on you.
Which is ironic because in the pregame, the way he described me was, he said, Marcus Wilson is not that athletic, but he's smart and he can shoot and all this. And then 3 minutes into the game, he's talking about they should have put somebody more athletic on him, which shows you how much some of us color commentators know, not attacking at him, because I was a color commentator too. But yeah, I mean, I think that I wasn't the most athletic, but I was more athletic than what people probably gave me credit for, which caught some people off guard when they finally got out there on the court with me, because I was kind of like Zeke. It didn't always look like I was trying very, very hard, but next thing you know, I'm by you or something like that. And so that was kind of how that went.
And I neglected to mention that you were a color commentator for a number of years for Evansville on ESPN. So that's another thing that you've done. You've done just about everything in your career. Let's go back to the videotape.
Yeah, I would say it's the smallest this year.
You look the same, Marcus.
But an incredible
tradition.
We were jumping on Kansas here early.
Shots doing much better job now.
Wilson, three-pointer on the other end. He has 9 for the Aces. Wilson snags it. They've got the numbers. Pull-up jumper. And
I think I know, like on this shot right here, I remember this. I mean, I'm flying off of a screen, and I think I hit a fadeaway, if I'm not mistaken. And so, like, it's like I said, once the shooter starts feeling it, the best thing to do is just to deny him, because it makes it really hard to stop somebody once a guy just starts getting hot. And for me, once I made my first couple, and I was already super motivated for this game, then the basket started feeling like the ocean, and so everything felt good.
Wilson has had 3 30-point games this year so far, and he's off to a pretty good start tonight.
that shot. 8-point lead by the Purple Aces.
I think they're going to have to put somebody a little bit more athletic on him than Robertson. Is bigger than the guy he's playing in the back court, but not tonight. There he gets stuck again behind the screen.
Forget this.
Roy, you got to get a more athletic player on this young man. He's a little tired right now. He was looking to come out. Jimmy Cruz just waved him off.
Gregory
there we go.
Control of it. Wilson and lays it in for 2 more.
That was something. Congratulations on this. Obviously, this was Zeke interview, but I just found that clips, and you're correct. I had no idea that you did that much. Before I let you go, you said something that was, I love quotes, motivational quotes. And this is something you've said: how you do anything is how you do everything. That's you. Right?
Yeah, I truly believe that. Unfortunately, there's a lot of young kids. I think the social media is a great way to share information and get information quickly. But the bad side about social media is it's given people this false sense of everything's going to happen now, like it's a microwave society. And so I say how you do everything is how you do everything. It's, some kids think they can just show up. There's a game on Friday, so they go to the gym on Wednesday and Thursday and get up some extra shots, right? But what were you doing the previous week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, right? I'm a firm believer in how you play in January is how hard you trained in June, the previous June, right? Like a lot of times it takes 3 to 6 months for those habits and that confidence to arrive in the moment. And so how you do anything is how you do everything. Like, you can't just show up and say, I'm going to be a good teammate today. And then you go to Walmart and you leave your shopping cart right there in the parking spot right next to you instead of putting it away, right? Like, it's the details of everything. How you treat that moment in the parking lot, how you treat that senior citizen, how you approach, anything is how you're going to do everything. You can't turn it off and on. And so I think that, that's one message that I've told my players a lot, that, people may not always be watching, but you know what you're doing. If you're getting in the right sleep, going to class, going your hardest in the weight room, getting up extra shots, like only you know that. And then when you show up to the game, it'll be a product of that. Coach Cruz sold us something at Evansville that I firmly believe is, you're not a champion the day that you get the trophy. You were a champion all year by how you're performing on your champion habits on a day-to-day basis. The trophy is just validation of your habits over the last 9 months, right? It's just a validation. Were you operating at a championship level every day for the last 9 months throughout the season? And so, again, like how you did anything 2-3 months ago is how you do everything today. And so that's something that I try to live by, not only in basketball, but in my personal life as well.
Well, coaches who are watching this today, take that quote and claim it's yours, because it's a good one. Good idea. Does not care who owns it. And this is just more validation. Talk about validation. I tell people to subscribe that aren't sports fans. They wonder why, because your quote that has nothing and everything to do about sports. It's the way of life, what you're talking about, and it's life skills. And thank you so much for coming in today, Marcus. I always end on a note where I say, whenever it's Rhody basketball, it's always Purple Aces. Whoops. It's always Go Rhody. Thanks again, Marcus.
Thanks a lot for having me. Thanks. Have a good day.
You too.